Welcome to the Lift Oneself podcast, Alfonso. I'm thankful you're here with me.
Oh, I'm so grateful. I know we know each other for years and years and years and years. And you have this incredible new platform. I'm excited. Yeah, you got me excited.
Good. How's your heart doing?
My heart is smooth. My heart is, it beats, I think it beats the way it should, right? I feel healthier than I ever did, even in my early 20s when I was maybe skinnier, right? You see, I don't identify with, like more of a what are they, huskier, my huskier self. I'm trans slender, you see, like I'm identify as slender, but I even though I'm a bit more husky than I was when I was 20 years old, I feel great. My heart is beating smooth.
Right. There's more to love in you.
What's that?
I said there's more to love in you.
Oh, for sure. That's why I said I'm husky.
Yeah.
I can hug people. Which I love to do. I love hugging people. I'm a people person. When you said heart, I thought you meant health, but now I understand you meant people. And the COVID, it's like, it's making me like hug people even more because it's like, now it's like, I know that you're not supposed to, but you vaxxed or whatever it is, come over here, and I love people. I'm a people person. People first.
Yeah. If I could, I'll call myself out. Since the pandemic, I've been hugging people, even strangers, even when it was back in 2020.
Yeah.
So even in Costco, I'd be hugging. I know the people would be looking like, what are you doing? You're not allowed to touch people. And I'm like, this person needs a hug. So I'm listening to whatever's called in me.
People need hugs. People need, I mean, not everybody wants to be touched, and of course, I respect
permission.
People's space.
Yeah.
Respect people's space. But I personally need the human touch. I think it's important. It's important for health, right, and sanity. And I'm a hugger. I'm a hugger, and like I think people have jumped onto these platforms, and a lot of people like, oh, we're becoming disconnected, right? I think we're becoming even more connected because, now with these platforms, we can see each other on Zoom, we can connect, we can understand each other. And then the hug, when we see each other, the hugs will be stronger. You see? So we're actually getting closer, I think.
Yeah. It's all, I through my life journey, I'm recognizing you always have a choice on how you want to see things. If you want to evilize it or if you want to see the good in it. And it's a mixed bag. There's not one thing that's all good. There's not one thing that's all bad. It's a mixture of both. It's a yin and yang, yet it seems that a lot in the mentality, everybody wants to look for that one solution, that one savior, that one all or nothing. And it's like, that's not what life is. It's a mixed bag. There's all kinds, it's
there's
mixed.
Ups and downs. There's, and I think it's mostly ups, right? I mean, think about, your daily life, right? And like 99% of the things that happen to you are positive.
There.
Right. And so like, why we only focus on that 1%, that car accident or, whatever it is that happened or is happening in the news, whatever topical thing is happening in the news, that's what people choose to focus on. But they forget about the 99% of the things that are going right in the world and going right in your life right now. Right?
Exactly. What can you thank COVID for?
Everything. COVID. And by the way, I'm not someone to make light for people that have suffered during this time.
Yeah.
I know that, people, obviously, just the COVID, the disease itself is not a positive thing, right? I don't know anybody that was personally affected, so it's easy for me to, I don't have a grandmother or someone that has passed, so I definitely sympathize with anyone that has gone through that, or lost a job, or restaurant, or businesses have been destroyed.
Yeah.
But personally, it has been a positive. My life has shifted in terms of a better, more quality of life that I'm having now, doing better financially than I ever was, doing better in terms of the time that I'm spending with loved ones that's something that is extremely positive, and I have to thank COVID for, because my life before COVID, I was on stages, right? Now, that sounds awesome, right? I mean, like, getting paid to share your thoughts and, share your stories and what you know. That's the dream life, right? And to me, I was like, I love it. Like, it's not even work. Like, you're gonna pay me to share my life? Like, I would do it for free, And I just didn't. And I never equated. I never associated it with work. But the truth is, I was on a plane twice a week. I'm always flying somewhere. I go to the venue. I see what's going on. I check into my beautiful hotel room with just me. I'm often eating dinner by myself. I'm FaceTiming my kids or whatever, but there's no, like, daddy's not home, right? And I remember back in those days, people were like, oh, you should think about doing things online, or like doing presentations online. I'm like, you can't connect with people online. But I realize now, in retrospect, that was my ego speaking. My ego said, I need to be on stage, what happened after COVID. So that part of the business died, right? Like, in an instant, no more events. My whole year was booked, disappeared. So now what am I going to do, right? And I decided
in retrospect, actually, you were impacted.
For
you
sure.
did lose business.
I did lose business, but as a result, I just leaned into this COVID thing, and I went online. I went on YouTube. What do I know about YouTube? Well, I know I got this, and I can do videos. And this is when I went on. I started doing videos. I guess I had the need to continue to talk. That YouTube turned into events, and my whole life online. Coaching, mentoring, everything that I do now, which is more rewarding to me than what I was doing before. And even though that stream of income closed, I created a new stream of income that can be done from anywhere. Mm-hmm. To me, that's like, I never
freedom.
Yeah, it's complete freedom, because I always have this like dying need to help people, right? Mm-hmm. I want to help people. I want to empower people. I want to help people achieve financial freedom. I was stuck in the old ways, right? I was not open to online and things like that, simply because I didn't know, right? And you're scared of things that you don't understand. But being forced to jump online and to build a whole different business online forced me to learn how to navigate through Zoom, YouTube, get subscribers, and just expand, get a TikTok account. Like, you got me doing this, you know what I mean? Like, you got me doing all kinds of craziness, which I would have never even had time for before. And so what has COVID done for me? COVID has given me ultimate freedom to do what I want, when I want, with whom I want, how I want it, whenever I want it. And when someone says COVID, that's what I think about.
In the next part of our conversation, this may bring up triggers and memories for some. Be aware of your inner state, and if it's overwhelming, please seek help. So your journey began in El Salvador, the journey for Alfonso.
Yes.
Can you tell us what that experience felt like? And were there any intentions that you told yourself that you can see that has come to fruition?
So the journey of being in El Salvador, it was like very memorable, even though I was young, right? So back, I'll go a little bit before I was born. So yeah. My mom was a political journalist in El Salvador. She started a news agency. So before CNN, right? All the news outlets would buy their news from news agencies. right? So they wouldn't send a correspondent. They would see what are the local news agencies in the area, and then they would buy the news from the news agency. So that's what my mom was doing. And she's very honest, and she has a lot of integrity, and governments don't like that. Obviously, if you're writing about what's really happening in the region with all these regimes and stuff, you're going to get in trouble. And that's what ultimately what happened to her. She eventually got shut down. She was illegally detained and brought to prison, where ultimately she was going to serve about a 40-year sentence, right?
Wow.
For speaking out against the government. And so at this point, you had all the news agencies of the world wanting to speak to my mom. And a big threat to our family was that they would potentially kidnap me as a young child when I was around 2 years old, as a way to get my mom not to speak out or share what was going on. And so my grandparents brought me to their house, and they kept me in hiding for like 3 years.
Okay.
So I was not allowed outside. I wasn't allowed to interact with other kids. It was a really interesting time in my life, because when you're a young child and you're on your own, right, you start to develop this incredible imagination. My entire existence was imaginary friends. I had all these imaginary friends, and I created this whole imaginary world. And I think that was really a positive. Like, I don't think many kids would have that experience, right? To develop a heightened level of imagination at such a young age. So eventually, my mom was freed. Thanks to, I don't know if you know the organization Amnesty International.
Yeah.
So they stepped in, they supported, and so they brought us here to Montreal for what do you call it? Political asylum.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
And so when we landed, what we didn't know is that the world was watching. They were right. There was stories. It was in the New York Times, everywhere. And so my mom was now, the second we stepped out the plane, we were in the Montreal Gazette, New York Times. You might not remember the politics, but the U.S. government was funding the Salvadorian government. Okay. Anybody that was against communism would get a check, right, from the U.S. government. And obviously, you don't want it out there that the government is suppressing their people, right?
Mhm.
And so they actually sent people to find us here in Canada. So now we're running for our lives in Montreal, right? And I remember I was like 5, 6 years old, and I remember I was, my mom was like pulling me, right? So imagine you're in a rush to go somewhere, and your parents, like, pretty much they're like dragging you like this. And I remember my mom had this look of fear in her face, right? She was like pale. I remember it was snow. It was snowing, but it was that slushy snow that would just, when it hits you, it just melts. And I remember she was so scared. Later, what I discovered was that there was death squads running after us in Montreal, in the metros, right? And so we had to go from different women's shelters and in hiding until it just became too much. And then we fled to back to Central America. And this time we went to where my grandparents are from, Nicaragua. Communist Nicaragua, Sandinistas. And like, my mom worked with the newspaper there. She was a journalist. So now we're in this communist country. Everything is regulated. And then Russia at the time decides to pull funding from all of their all the countries that were communists that they were supporting. So now there's no food. There's no food. We like, even if you had all the money in the world, you would go to the grocery store. There's not even bread, nothing. There's not even a chicken egg, nothing. And then the war, another war started. So my mom was like, okay, like this is too much. And so now we have nothing. Now we lost the support of the Canadian government because we left. And my mom is like, whoa, okay, we have to make our way back to Canada. And so we went by land, right? We hitchhiked all the way to the closest Canadian embassy, which was in Mexico City. So we had to cross, and I don't know if you've seen it in you've probably seen it in movies or whatnot, like this journey that a lot of people from Latin America make, by land, right?
And it's dangerous, and right when you get close to the borders, because they know that those are people that are in survival mode. So you're getting robbed, or you're getting threatened, or you're getting blackmailed, and all this kind of stuff.
It's really crazy, especially for a single mother.
Yeah.
Young child, 6 years old, 7 years old.
Vulnerability.
We had no money, right? We had no money, and so we come up to the border of Mexico and Guatemala. Okay, so now we made it to the border. They're stopping everyone. No one can get through because obviously everybody trying to go across that border is obviously headed to the U.S., right? And so we found this coyote. They call them coyotes, people that like illegally cross you over the border. And he's like, "Oh, I can get you over for I don't remember. It's like 200 pesos or whatever." And it was my mom's last 200 pesos. And so the idea is we cross underneath the bridge. So you have soldiers, if they see anything, they're going to just, they're going to spray. They're not even going to question there's women or children there, nothing. They're just going to spray. So we cross over to the Mexican side. And she had a brother. My uncle lived in Mexico City. So we were going to stay with them. And that's where we could apply for a new application to come back to Canada. And so I'm 6 years old. We get to the other side. And then the guy says to my mom, okay, so we got you here, but it's going to be an extra 200 pesos. And my mom's like, I don't have it. And he's holding our passports. Like he has the passports in his hand. I'm 6 years old. My mom is like now arguing with this guy. Like, we don't have an extra 200 pesos. I'm saying 200, but I don't even know how much it is. Mm-hmm. But we have nothing. Like, we have nothing. He's like, well, I'm not going to give you back your passports. So now we're in a situation. If we lose our passports, we can't apply for anything. We can't go anywhere. We can't go back. We're like, what are we going to do? We're like nomads, right? And my mom tells the story a lot better than I do. But somehow I felt the tension, and the guy is holding the passports in his hand, and I grabbed them and I took off. And then my mom was like shocked for a moment, and then she came right after me. It's like Bonnie and Clyde. So now we go to Mexico City. We apply for refugee status. So the first time we came from as like political asylum. Political asylum. Now we're coming from as refugees, right? From the war in Nicaragua. So we're not even coming from the El Salvador war and all that. That was the first time. But now we're coming for the second war that we were in, which was Nicaragua. We waited about 6 months, and finally we got approved. Boom. We're now on our way to Vancouver, okay, Vancouver, BC, 1986. Now I'm 9 years old, okay, and so it must have been longer. I'm mixing up the ages there, but yeah. I was turning 9 86, Vancouver, BC. We land, we're going through customs. We have our paperwork, right? We have our paperwork approved, right? Stamped, approved, you know. We get to customs. The guy talks to somebody, he talks to somebody else, he talks to somebody else. They bring other people, managers, and he brings us into that little room. You probably don't know about the little room, but they have the smallest room possible at customs. I don't know what it is, but it's the smallest room possible. And the guy says, you guys have been here before. And my mom's like, yeah, we came as political, we had political asylum, and then now we're coming back as refugees. And he's like, well, you can't do that. Once you get status, if you leave, you lose that status forever. Like, you cannot come back to this country. We give you a status, you stay in this country. If you come back, that's it. You know, we cannot let you back into this country. And so I'm sitting in that little room. My mom's, and this is why, like, I don't know what it is, but everything is for whatever reason, like, this person, because it could have been a different customs officer, but this person, you know, he almost gave us a time of day. My mom is sitting there. Now she goes and explains the entire story, like going through this, Guatemala, this is where it is, my son, the war and this and that. And then she starts crying. And I'll never forget this. So now, like, we're this close of not being allowed to be in Canada. And for whatever reason, that particular customs officer, was someone that I guess was human enough to see the situation and stamp the paper, welcome to Canada. And then we were allowed to come in. And that's my journey into Canada.
I understand now, hearing that was a lot of trauma that you went through.
Yeah.
Lots of trauma. And you use this energy in such a fulfilling way for yourself. You really have. And I understand where there's this energy or palpitation of helping other people. Because you knew how it felt as a young child, how how scared that feels, and how you don't want anybody else to have that feeling. And you've turned that into a positive for yourself. Whereas some people, trauma can eat them. You've learned.
They become victims.
Mm-hmm. And you have, what a powerful woman. I hope I'm honored to meet your mother. Wow. I have chills going through my body. Now, what brought you to Ottawa?
Well, here's what I'll say. So Vancouver, and the only way I can describe it is, I don't know if you've seen this movie Scarface.
Yeah.
And in the movie, there's this, underneath the bridge, when they were bringing in all the Cuban refugees, they would keep them contained underneath this bridge. Very similar. I mean, we're not just talking about El Salvador. You had the wars, the cartel wars in Mexico. You had Guatemala was at war, El Salvador was at war, Honduras was at war, Nicaragua was at war, Panama was at war, Colombia was at, I mean, if you could imagine, half of Latin America was at war, and we're all trying to come into Canada as refugees. There was just too many of us. And so what the government did, they would buy all the rooms in these hotels, like these. So it was like little mini Latin America. Every single room they've bought already. They were renting these rooms for all of this massive, like, insurgents, you could say, of Latin American people. You know, it was like little Latin America. And then when we went out, to the, so basically that was this is where you started, right? In these, like, I guess, like, holding place, right? And then there would be people that would speak Spanish, and they could help us find a place to live or whatnot. And so where they brought us was an area that was really bad. Now Vancouver's a beautiful place, but it does have its dark places, right? And so where we were, the back alley, there was like people, sticking themselves with
addiction's very high in Vancouver.
I was like running around outside, getting into trouble. I guess my mom thought that Ottawa would be a place where, I could settle in a little bit, because I was getting into so much trouble already at 9-10 years old. I was just getting in so much trouble. So, nation's capital of Canada, nothing can go wrong there. So that's why we came to Ottawa, right? We came, my mom came she made a sacrifice to restart her life again, to make sure that I would have a better life here. She thought I would have a better life than where I was there in this, surrounded around, like we were still in poverty, but there would be, I guess, less poverty around.
Remember, those parts that seem shitty are actually the parts that bring color and vibrance to your life. Every garden needs manure to thrive. I want to ask you about rugged culture.
Yes, where we met.
Yes. Why the title and why clothing? Why did you bring that to Ottawa?
Well, the biggest reason has nothing to do with clothing or fashion. I did fall in love with hip hop. So when I moved to Vancouver, so back home, the only thing we knew was Michael Jackson. Like we could sing Michael Jackson songs. Couldn't even speak English. I mean, this is like Michael Jackson was like, and he was not a breaker, but he would have these like, he was breaking. Essentially, that's what he was doing. And I remember, and this is so close to me now, because a few weeks ago, I went back to where I grew up in Vancouver. Like I drove out there this summer, and I searched for my old neighborhood, and I went to, so Broadway, which I thought it was Broadway and Fraser where I grew up, but it's actually Prince Edward Street and Broadway. So down the street, they had these skate bowls, and across the street from that, they had this school. And I remember walking the first time I arrived to that neighborhood. I remember walking down the street. I must have been 9 years old, and people had cut out this cardboard, and they were in front of this building, and they had taped the cardboard to the ground, and they were dancing. This is at 1986, if you can imagine. And I was just so fascinated. I was just like, I remember like, I was like 9 years old, just sitting all day long. I would go there and watch it. And then I went and bought my first cassette tape, the Fat Boys. And that was my first cassette tape. And then I bought Run DMC. And then I bought Run DMC, LL Cool J. And like, I was like in love with hip hop. It was just like, the music spoke to me for some reason, other than other music. I just didn't feel like I connected with it. And so I always grew up a hip hop head, and this is what I knew. Going back to why I opened the business, it was 15 years old. I'd lost my way. I ended up living on the streets, and high school dropout, living on the streets, doing what I had to do to survive, sleeping in banks or whatnot. And I had a life-changing moment at 17 where I became a father. And that moment for me was a pivotal moment in my life, because it was the first time that I discovered purpose. What does it really mean to live with purpose and have a reason why and why you do things. Beforehand, if you would have met me at 15 years old, my confidence was like this. I had no belief in myself, very low confidence, very negative. The entire world is against me. But now I have this little baby, right? And they put her in my arms, and now it's like, whoa, like, it's no longer about me anymore. It's about this human being. And I didn't have a father, right? So my father was never around. And I just didn't want to be that type of father that wasn't around for his kids, even though I'm still a kid myself, 17 years old. I said, I have to, change my life, right? I looked at, I mean, she was born in Montfort Hospital. So for the people that are listening to this and they're not from Ottawa, Montfort Hospital is the East End on Montreal Road. It's a French hospital. And obviously it was a French hospital because her mom was in Orleans. She's Francophone. She's from Haiti. We chose that hospital. And I remember going to the bathroom in that hospital and looking at myself for the very first time in the mirror and saying to myself, Alfonso, you have to change. And that was the beginning of my expansion. What I knew was get a job, go to school. So I got a job, went to school. $5 an hour was what they were paying me, these bastards. But that's what I was worth, right? $5 an hour. Now I'm trying to go to school full time. Now I didn't have to go back to high school. The reason I did it was I never wanted my daughter to have an excuse not to finish high school because I didn't. So I said, at least I'm going to go and I'm going to finish high school. And now I'm trying to work full time, right? $5 an hour, full time, going to school full time. And I said, it's not going to work. I have this young family. So I remember always going to Montreal or Toronto or even New York. I had this fascination with New York. We would buy mixtapes and jeans and t-shirts from these vendors. You can find and it's all like cheap stuff that I don't know where they got it from. It was probably China stuff. China wasn't that relevant at that time. But these mixtapes, Tony Touch, Green Lantern, like all these mixtapes that you did not see in Ottawa, right? And so what I would do is I would go to Toronto and I would just buy all the stuff from these street vendors, and I would bring it back and I would sell it from my locker in high school. If what school did you go to?
I didn't grow up in Ottawa. I grew up in Sudbury.
Okay.
So I went to adult high school.
Okay. But there must have been, it doesn't matter what high school you went to.
Yeah.
There must have been that kid with the backpack, always with something to sell or trade. There had to have been that kid. There's always that one kid that is so industrious. It's always I
just knew the kids that sold weed and hash. That's the kids that I was looking for.
Okay, so I didn't go to that level. I was selling clothes. I was hustling clothes, more profitable, by the way.
Yeah.
But I would buy these pair of jeans in Toronto for $20. I'd come back and I would resell them to my kids in school for $60. I'd make a $40 profit with a 10-minute transaction. I mean, that's better than selling weed, if you ask me.
Oh yeah, of course. Heck, and there's no liability.
Yeah, and then the mixtapes, which no one had heard of any of these songs, the newest of the new. I would go to the dollar store and you buy the stack, right? And then you would dub them all off, and I would photocopy the covers, and I would sell them $20 a pop. That was a business. That was the beginning of my business. And so I fell in love with the business, knowing that the business stuff could catch up because I knew so much about hip hop. I knew so much about it that I knew that this is my chance. I could do this. And so I would go to Montreal and I would go to Toronto and I would see these hip hop stores. And I said, I can do that. I can bring that to Ottawa. And people would say, nah, Ottawa, no one's going to want to buy things. It's a preppy place. There's not going to be enough of a market. And I'm like, no, I know this could work. And so when I graduated high school, that was the vision that I had. It was I wanted to own my own physical location. That was going to be it for me. It's whoa, I can be in control of my own destiny, right? That's how I got into rugged culture. So you asked why rugged culture? why the clothing store, and then why rugged culture? I just felt we were rugged. Like it's a rugged era, right? It was like, like it was like the swag was rugged, was a rugged swag. I mean, big ass lug shoes and Timberlands, you know what I mean? Everything about what we was rugged. And so I felt, I said, rugged, it's a culture of rugged people. And that was what I called it. And everybody said, no, it's not going to work. It's a stupid name. It doesn't make sense.
It did, though. It really, you knew exactly what the heart of it was. And you just, were living out of your experience.
Yeah.
And you really named it properly. How long did the store last for?
The first location, we opened it. So we ended up with locations all across Canada.
Mm-hmm.
But the first location was 1998. We sold a lot of the stores, and then we finally closed our last location, I want to say 2013, but I might be mistaken. Could be 2012, 2013, something like that.
That's a long run.
Yeah.
And 1998 was the year of the ice storm for Ottawa.
Yeah, the year of the ice storm. Yeah. I remember that.
Now you left that part of the business. Why real estate?
Now we're going deep. Yeah, so.
Hey, if you're curious to know how deep we go, be sure to listen out for episode 2. Thank you for making it all the way to the end. I appreciate you and your time. If I can ask you, please share out this podcast. Share it out to the public. Share it out to a friend. Help grow the community of Lift Oneself. Until next time, be sure to be kind and soft with yourself. You matter.